Me growing up was very different. As a child, I spent a lot of time on my own. I consider myself my own best friend. I have a sister, but the older sister, but most of the time my mother would force her to work at her salon, and which in turn would leave me alone and by myself. I remember the days when I'd be in the living room watching TV alone, bored, as I only had a couple of friends in the complex that we were living in, right? So you can't get their attention all the time. Sometimes they're playing with their other friends and you're all alone. But anyway, so at the age of 8, I started to take the own liberty to go on my own adventures, and rather be my own entertainment rather than look for it from somebody else. I started wandering around. I would wander to the back of my building, which had a golf course. It was cool looking at, cool to see people playing golf, stuff like that. And I would collect golf balls. It was fun. In the events of my adventures, I stumbled upon a creek. I was as you can tell, I'm an adventurous guy, go on my little excursions. I stumbled upon a creek, which was on the other side of the building across the street. So every now and then, I would go behind the church, which would lead to the creek, and take a little stroll, if you want to call it. Wander about, whatever. All around this time, a child growing up alone and to himself, all the time was becoming difficult to cope with. I would leave school knowing that I was going home to an empty house with no one home. Because as I told you, my mother would always draw my one sister to the salon, and most of her time would be occupied in there, right? So my sister wouldn't even be at home when I was there. So I would sometimes go over to the neighbors and stay there for a bit, but it wasn't really what I was yearning for. I needed a real family setting. I would always hope and pray for it. We would celebrate our birthdays, but that would be the only time we would share any significant time as a family. Me and my sister would get presents, get gifts, and our mother would take that away and hold it like a vice grip. There were plenty of times I would hear my mother talking down to my sister and calling her names, which would always bother me. I'm a younger brother, but I'm a guy, she's a woman. You always want to protect your sister, right? So it would bother me. And a lot of the times I would suffer the same fate, call me names just as much as you'll call my sister names. My mother would do hairdressing at home over the weekends for extra income. And one day, a wonderful Jamaican lady came to do her hair. And that was the beginning of something special, or so I thought. The lady that came to do her hair on the weekends had a small assembly with her husband, which we would often go to. Things blossomed into a family friendship, and I became good friends with their younger son. They started picking me up every weekend to go bowling. And after a couple of weeks of going bowling, I kind of realized something that was a little bit off, with the younger son. I realized that he was a bit slow. He wasn't up to speed like I was. So me realizing this and being the humble child that I was at the time, I was very aware of who I was and what type of person I was, even at the age of 8 or 9 or whatever you want to call it. I became his little mentor. I showed him the ropes, taught him things. He was my brother. At this point, I took him in. Things quickly turned into me going by the house every weekend, sleeping over. It was my house now. I was so happy because I was finally getting what I hoped and prayed for, which was more of a family setting, right? I felt right at home, and everything was so blessed. They even took me on a trip to Jamaica with them for a funeral and paid for my ticket. Took me to places I've never seen before, places they called home. I was having the best time of my life and feeling extremely stress-free. At this time, I felt completely a part of the family. Everything became effortless, and I seen myself going up to their house on a regular basis, spending all my time over there like it was my own home. Everything would stop when I was around them. I wasn't worried about anything but just going up to the house every weekend, and sometimes within the week. I remember all the good times, the laughter, long nights. Like I said, I was blessed. The older son was the one I took to the most, though, because I looked at him as a role model, And, you know, although I started my friendship with the younger son, me and him had more of a connection. So, you know, at this point, I became to realize that I was kind of blinded by all the entertainment and everything that was happening for me. You know, I wasn't paying attention to the things that I was supposed to be doing for myself. I was wrapped up in everything, and time was slipping through my hands. Me and the older brother became real brothers, and that was something I never had. So you can imagine how full of joy I was. You know, I'm getting something that I was yearning for, you know. I never had that family setting. The younger son would be around us when we're either playing games or socializing or whatnot, but it wasn't the same for him, you know. He would get mad easy. Anytime something wouldn't go his way, he'd have a temper tantrum, you know, or get upset with everybody, you know. He's a couple years older than me, but he has the traits of a younger child. I realized that he didn't know how to interact with people. Yeah, I showed him, I tried to be around him, talk to him, show him certain things. I was his, I guess, his teacher, to make him, you know, feel a little bit more stress-free with dealing with people and doing more things for himself. He didn't have that around him. So over time, years passed by, I realized how much he was improving. And I realized that anytime I would go by the house, it's like my spirit would bring some type of light in there, you know, which, you know, I began to realize and notice that that's probably why I was there, you know, that's why they had me around. You know, and the times I would miss a week or whatever, because I told you guys I've been going over, I'll go over there week after week, spend time over there like it was my own house. So the times I wouldn't go over there, it would always be met with, why didn't we see you this week, you know, and stuff like that, you know, which I kind of found weird, you know, after, you know, I don't go, it shouldn't be a problem, right? But it was. So after growing up in this house and an environment most of my childhood and even into my early 20s and late 20s, I began to realize more and more that I was just around to bring this fresh, bright, new energy into the house for the betterment of the younger son. I wasn't growing. Although I was highly entertained, the real problem was that I wasn't reaching where I need to be in my life, and I wasn't getting the backing from them, right? I thought they were my family. I became aware of myself and came to the conclusion that the one family I knew was stopping my progress and stealing my God-given light to use for themselves. I had to make a decision, and it was one of the hardest decisions I ever had to make in my life. I'm a very spiritual guy, and my spirit was talking to me, along with my older sister, who would always preach that they weren't what I thought they were, which I would find hard to believe, but she proved right. I slowly stopped going and started working and occupying my time as much as possible to fill the blank that was now opened up by reality. I learned a lot from them. You know, I grew up with a second mother, you could say. She showed me things in the kitchen, she showed me how to cook, taught me how to clean, all that type of stuff. I learned life lessons from them. Although I learned a lot from them, my time around them was overdue. I had to make my way out. It took a lot of courage, a lot of tears, a lot of sadness, but I got through it. And I miss them dearly, but I can't go back to the place where I wasn't growing. I'll never forget what they've done for me, because they still deserve the credit. But honesty is key in my life, and I've grown to understand that. Don't live a lie, but live an honest life, and allow your actions to do the rest, and you'll never be fooled. In life, a lot of times, people see and read you before you even get to know them. And the intentions can mean well or take up time that you can't get back. So I always know what time it is. And this is the last thing, there's still a place for them. And that's in my heart. I'll never forget them. And that's my story.